Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit-Downs. Yesterday, the old Seaman found himself back at the movie theaters for the first time since Godzilla vs. Kong, and this is kind of the first movie that I've gone to that I wouldn't say is necessarily, a movie you need to see in theaters. I think if this one would have been streaming somewhere, if there would have been a day and date release, I would have watched it on my couch, but it wasn't. This was an in-theaters only movie, and this is a movie that I was really, really psyched about. So I found, like I've been doing all pandemic long when I have gone, found time where there really wasn't anybody in the theater. There were only two other folks there. But shout out continually to AMC, even if there's not a lot of foot traffic right now. The theaters that I've gone to, super clean. I feel safe. The staff has been wonderful. So shout outs to that, because if we're going back to the movies, you want to feel good about doing it. And so far, I certainly have. As far as how I felt about the movie, well, that's a little bit more of a mixed bag. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into Spiral from the Book of Saw. And like I said, the reason I went out and I didn't wait for this one to get released for rental was because I was super psyched for this movie. I'm a huge Saw fan. That first film is one of my all-time favorite horror suspense thrillers. There's so much genius in that first movie. And as the series progresses, as ridiculous as it gets, I always appreciated the fact that everything tied back and everything technically tied together, even if we were stretching that thread really, really far. And the other thing, too, is just all of the kills are great in those movies, man. I live for those traps. The idea of the trap, is inspired lots of other things, right? I mean, the escape room game, very Saw-esque, was awesome. I can't wait for that second one. So, this is a world where I like to go back to this stuff. And I was just pumped to get another installment that lived in the world of Saw. And in case you weren't sure, it's 100% a Saw movie. They directly link it and even say, Jigsaw, Copycat. It's in that universe, which is awesome. And I'm a huge Chris Rock fan. He's been my favorite comedian since I was 13 years old. And I'm always interested to see what he has to say. He's a very opinionated comedian. And the way he delivers that material made me laugh for years. And granted, I love Chris Rock. I haven't dived into Fargo yet. I know, shame on me. But I've heard good things, and I was very interested to see how he would do leading a dramatic horror movie, because that was kind of a realm that I hadn't seen Rock before in. And also to see what he was going to have to say about the concept of corrupt police. That's one of the things, from a concept standpoint, I loved about this film, right? The idea of a Jigsaw copycat targeting police and corrupt police. And when you have someone like Rock, and we're in the climate that we are when, you're talking about police, I was interested to see what the movie was going to have to say about that stuff. I know Rock wasn't writing or directing, but he was producing, and I just assumed, hey, we'll probably have something in there that'll kind of have some sort of substance to whatever the material is that we're watching. And shockingly, the movie doesn't really say anything about anything. There's, no substance to the script itself. Outside of these really awesome traps that we get. And I was kind of taken aback by that. I don't necessarily need, there to be a ton of substance, but it just felt like you had an opportunity to say something, and instead of saying it, you just kind of throw two moments in there that kind of quickly brush over, hey, yeah, this is some of the issues that are going on in the world, but we're not actually going to talk about them. And that was one of the things that severely hurt this movie for me. But like I said, it's a mixed bag, because I really dug the traps, man. The movie opens with a trap, and I think there's 5 or 6 of them throughout the course of the movie, and they check all the boxes you want a Saw trap to check, man. The way that the trap is designed specifically for each of the targets and why it's designed that way, loved all that stuff. I thought the traps themselves were horrifying. I sat there the whole movie just going, if somebody knocked me out and I woke up inside one of these, I don't know what I would do. I would not handle it well. Every single one of them, I was nope, couldn't do that. Nope, couldn't do that. I'd just be somebody put a bullet in my head than going through what these traps were. And that stuff worked really, really well inside the movie. And it's shot really, really wonderfully. All of those sequences, man, they make you cringe and squirm. At least 3 of them, I was in a full-on ball, like, no, don't do it, oh god. Like, there is some classic Saw gross outs and just gore in this one, and the visual style to the way it looked, like the way the camera comes in, just the kind of way they bounce around and give you that feeling of just sheer terror and confusion, and like, you know, you feel like that just the way that it's shot. And I liked all of that. And then on top of that, production-wise, the whole movie looks fantastic. I mean, shout out to Darren Lynn Bousman and whoever his cinematographer was, because this movie is really, really nice to look at. And I wasn't necessarily expecting that from this kind of movie, but when you're in, you know, the police station, or you're outside, you know, in daytime or even nighttime, like, it's super clean looking. When you're in, you know, a nighttime sequence, or you're in a dimly lit room, you know, it's dark or whatever, the way things are lit just creates some really, really, really striking visuals. Specifically, there's one shot of Samuel L. Jackson where it's just like the whole room is flooded in red, and he's just like coming down this wall, and you're like, that's so good looking. And that stuff always works for me. The other thing that did work for me here was Chris Rock. Granted, I think he scowls a little too much. Like, the whole movie, his face is that scowl. It's almost like Chris Rock was like, this is a serious horror movie. Scowl. But he definitely got that vibe that fit his character as a police officer. And I thought his performance was good. There are some classic Chris Rock moments, specifically his first scene. I won't spoil it, but it involves like him and his team getting ready to do something, so he's just talking, and it's like classic Chris Rock on a stage, just delivering material that is outright funny. He's talking about Forrest Gump, and I was bawling, like I was laughing so hard. I mean, tears were I enjoyed it a lot. It's been a while since I've seen some classic Rock, and you get that throughout the movie. Occasionally, when there's not a tense moment, and it's just him talking to like his new partner, like you get some of these funny kind of little Chris Rock moments where you're like, yeah, man, you smile. But everything else that's not that, is good. The movie does a good job of creating tension. I think Rock plays well inside that tension, and I would like to see him do more. Like, this is a guy that can carry a movie. The problem wasn't the performance, but I wasn't super impressed with the performance because the material's not that great. And the material's not that great for everybody, especially on a character level. Like, as much as you want to like Rock, there's this childish kind of behavior between him and the entire department that's been going on for years because of something that he did. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, I want to root for you, man, but even some of your comebacks or the way that you come at people or just your general miserable demeanor doesn't really make me like you. And that material just didn't work. I mean, it's very traditional Saw, man. Like, trap, investigative dialogue and investigation stuff, trap, more investigation and dialogue, trap. And when you're in that investigation and dialogue stuff, the movie's just not very good. It's the script is just kind of weak in those areas. And like, there are moments where like it just seems like everybody in the police department is just yelling at each other, and it felt at times like you were watching a bunch of teenagers bicker over something super stupid, and there's a bunch of grown adults bickering over stuff that like is preventing them from doing their job that is super important, specifically when you're talking about targeting police officers. And that weak script writing just produces a lot of meh performances. I mean, I wasn't impressed with Marisol Nichols, who plays the captain of the police department, and I felt like there were like interesting things that maybe you could have given that character or built for that character. And that's the other thing too, like around Chris Rock's story, there's a lot of reveals to his character and things that tie to different people in the department. I just didn't like the way that they executed any of that stuff, and like I said, it just didn't provide anything for his other, co-actors. Like Marisol Nichols was just generically kind of fine. Max Minghella, who plays William Schenk, Rock's new rookie partner, like he's fine, but like again, like the dialogue and just the writing around that character wasn't as strong as I thought you could have been. And even Samuel L. Jackson, I mean, the great Samuel L. Jackson at your disposal, just kind of a generic, like, hey, Sam showed up for like a day or two maybe to get some filming in, and like I was hoping for more stuff with him and Rock, and we obviously know that he gets caught because we've seen that in the trailers, and I was hoping for a better build-up to that, and just inside of that story, and it doesn't execute in any of those lanes, which was just for me super disappointing, because you had some really interesting people at play inside of your cast, and some interesting concepts that you could have dived into that they just don't. And I think the other thing that kills it for me, right, like I said, is I'm like right smack dab in the middle, but I lean a little bit more toward the not so good, because specifically I figured things out pretty early in this one. I won't say when or how early, but there is a moment, and as soon as that moment hit, I was like, yeah, I bet it's probably, like, if we're going to go after one, we probably go that route. And I'm one that likes to turn my brain off and not try to figure things out. But it was hard to miss, and I thought that kind of hurt it. And then the movie kind of rebounds a little bit. Like, as you're getting into the conclusion and your final reveals are happening, I was like, granted, I saw this kind of coming, but where they're going, I'm like, this could be really interesting. And if you nail that ending, I'd probably lean a little bit more toward the good side, but the ending just fell flat. Like, what they built up, they didn't execute well on, and then, like, the final thing, the way it was set up, I was just like, I don't know why that would happen. Like, those people should not have done with it. Like, it was very obvious that something weird was going on, and like they just opt to do something where I was like, that makes no sense. And if that is supposed to be commentary of some kind, talk about lazy and just not well executed. Like, I got to the end and I was just like, God, man, there was something there, but they just didn't deliver on it. So for me, Spiral ends up being a mixed bag that I wouldn't probably watch again, which is kind of unfortunate because, like I said, I really do enjoy this universe and this world, and I would love to see them do this idea in a way more interesting way. So those are all my non-spoiler thoughts on Spiral. If you like Saw Kills, you are going to enjoy that aspect of the movie for sure. But if you're looking for like a good movie to be around those kills, you might be a little disappointed. So now that I've talked, I gotta know what you guys are thinking about, man. If you had a chance to jump out to the theater, go check out Spiral. Are you a fan of Saw? Is this something you were excited about? Are you still excited about it? If you've seen the movie, did you like it? I noticed that there's a far more positive response on the audience score on RT, so people certainly are liking the movie. And is it because the kills are so good and you're just fine with that and whatever story comes along, whatever? Or did this one just kind of miss the mark for you? Anything you're thinking, good, bad, indifferent about Spiral, goes down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you guys down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you do, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailers. We got a lot of stuff is starting to come in as the world starts to reopen. You want to be here for all that? You want to show the old C-Man a little love, a little support because you dig what I'm doing? Well, please, I suggest coming and joining the C-Maniac Nation to do that by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema, sit down. I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.